Everything about how the world is working is changing because of AI. Every brand in the world is looking for a partner to understand how they retain some control of the customer journey and connection to their customer. I'm starting my day in ChatGPT. Wait a second, I'm not visiting websites anymore. Who are websites for? Who are we writing content for? So I was on the phone with a C-level executive at a very large insurance company here in the US, and they had described almost their entire behavior had moved over to Perplexity. But they hadn't even thought about how it applied to their business. And we were on the phone searching via Google for like a product they offer, and then doing the same search on Gemini, Perplexity, GPT, and getting different results. And they're like, wait a second, these things work differently. Like this is gonna change how we market and sell.
Chris, welcome to Tech Scenes Unplugged.
Thanks, Jeff. Great to be here.
Yeah, great to have you here. I've been looking forward to having this conversation with you. And well, let's start from the top. Tell me about Scrunch. What are you guys building?
Yeah, we're building the new marketing platform to facilitate an AI-first buyer journey. Really, our simple premise is that humans have outsourced browsing to AI. Humans are visiting fewer and fewer websites because AI is visiting the website for us to gather information. And so we're building a platform to deeply map that customer journey, starting with an understanding of AI search visibility. How do you optimize that? How do you think about content in a world where AI is the primary consumer of your content? So think of it as a marketing platform to help brands understand and optimize how they show up in AI search, but also start to optimize for a massive shift in how customers interact and buy from you.
Yeah, it's really interesting because the customer journey obviously has totally changed. With it's more of a would you call it like a crawling journey now that, AI is really crawling and trying to gather the information for people versus, the past where we're all just going online and searching everything that we possibly can.
The reason I started the company 2.5 years ago was because I personally saw my behavior change. And I think as marketers, we have to reshape our thinking from bots are bad to every single bot is now representing a person. Like we haven't even thought about this as consumers, but when I ask a question in ChatGPT, I'm outsourcing that task of browsing to an AI agent that goes and scrapes the relevant pages, looks at trained-in knowledge, and tries to synthesize an answer for me. And so
Right.
I do think of it as a crawling journey. That's kind of an interesting way to represent it. I was just speaking about this yesterday with someone where, we're going from architecting the perfect MarTech stack to actually marketing to technology. That's what we're doing is every marketer needs to market to technology because AI is now brokering that interaction. So the agents that are crawling our sites are just the very tip of the iceberg in terms of what's coming. Everybody's talking about agentic commerce and, how these agents are going to take complex tasks for us. But the first thing that's happened at scale is they are trying to make sense of external information on the web about your brand, your product, your service, and decide whether to represent that to a human. And so that's the first class consumer of content on the web going forward.
Yeah. Can you break down the product a little bit for me? Like, can explain kind of like how it works and kind of like what modules and, what's it look like?
Yeah. So I would think about it as kind of a couple of core capabilities here. So, you're one brand and you want to understand what are people doing on these AI search platforms and am I showing up? That's usually the first question, right? I've got a large brand or a small brand. When someone asks about a topic that I want to be included in, is GPT or Google AI Overviews or Perplexity representing me? And so we built a platform that really deeply maps your brand first and foremost. Who are you? Who do you sell to? What are the personas you sell to? Who do you compete with? What are the topics you're going to care about? And then we start looking at millions of likely questions that should be matched to you, right? So we're actually looking at real consumer data saying, hey, these are the questions people are asking in AI search, and is your brand present? And then usually the brand has a lot of questions they also want to ask. Like, hey, we've got these topics and themes and keywords. we want to represent as prompts. And so we're going to start tracking hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands of prompts in our platform alongside the actual consumer data. And then you say, well, what are these agents actually doing on my website today? And so we have a platform that lets you see, hey, AI agents are visiting your website. At what frequency? What pages? When are they crawling the site? You can start to actually map this customer journey. So think of it as first and foremost a enterprise grade monitoring platform for many of the Fortune 500 firms to come through and monitor millions of different topic areas, different persona buyer journeys, and understand if and how they're showing up. Our premise is your brand is no longer what you say it is. Your brand is what ChatGPT AI overviews say it is. So understand that. The next layer is let's start doing a comprehensive audit of how your content is being represented. Like what happens when an AI agent scrapes your product page, your pricing page? Can it understand that information? If not, let's optimize it. So we have an automated optimization layer to make sure the content is AI ready. Like we think of this as rewriting the web for AI. Turns out I didn't want to go read all the product pages, all the B2B buyer guides. I just want a list of things for me to evaluate as a consumer, B2B or B2C. And so that content optimization layer makes sure it's AI ready, and then a content delivery mechanism to help get that content to AI as they are looking for it. So really kind of three core components to the platform that we've been building out.
And are you guys physically changing the website, or is this like metadata information, or is it really what's on the content that's presented on the site?
It's both. So we have the ability to physically make changes to the websites, right, to optimize for AI retrieval. And that's been a huge piece of the conversation for folks, which is, okay, when AI comes to my pricing page, my pricing is often misrepresented. Why? Well, it's not presented in a way that AI can actually consume it. It's buried in JavaScript, or maybe your pricing is broken down in a video and the AI model is not reading the video. So let's get it into a format optimized for AI consumption. Our platform can automate that for you and make it available.
Let's back up a little bit. So
Sure.
your history is really interesting because you played a variety of roles, from like product and growth, and it's interesting. You spent a lot of time, was it at Hearsay Systems? And you went through a lot of kind of the different layers of an organization. And I'm just curious, from those learnings and kind of going into this organization and playing the CEO role, that has to be kind of a superpower to really know what you want out of those roles. It's one way to say it, I think, right? Like, and how you want to craft the organization. What has been some of your thinking, coming in and kind of like building Scrunch?
Yeah. No, I think when I joined Hearsay, I was probably, 23 years old, 2 years at Intuit. Great foundation in Silicon Valley. Couldn't recommend Intuit more as a place to start a career. The type of place where the billionaire founder at Intuit is in meetings with the new hires, kind of mapping what small businesses need to be successful. But then I left to go join Hearsay Social at the time, that became Hearsay Systems, ultimately sold to Yext. But I spent 12 years there, which is a pretty unconventional startup journey. I built the customer success organization. I built our sales engineering organization. I was a product manager. I moved to Europe and I led all of our international expansion, carried a $5 million number and needed to hire AEs and land 6-figure, 7-figure enterprise SaaS deals. I came back to the US as chief product officer, running a 100-person Eng product and design organization. I can tell you I wasn't world-class at every one of those functions. I learned a lot about what good looks like and where I really needed to lean on people I was hiring in my relative kind of BU to be effective. And it's massively shaped my thinking in terms of how to build the team at Scrunch. I think the quality of your people is ultimately what differentiates the company. Like, technology is less and less differentiated in today's environment, and startups are constantly evolving and shifting. And so when I think at the core, I was like, who do I want to build a company with? It's somebody I trust. It's somebody I care about. It's somebody that is going to make me better. And that's my co-founder, Robert, right? Robert McCloy was the engineer number 2 at Hearsay. Finished up as CTO, but the type of person that you can put in the room with a, CTO of a Fortune 100 firm, and they're going to be like, this guy's the smartest person in the room. He's the type of person that can communicate extremely clearly from a written perspective, and he can build the product end to end himself, and he can run a 100-person plus team. That is such a unique set of skills. The reality for me is I'm massively driven by, human relationships. Like I really enjoy people. Like I actually enjoy building teams. I enjoy getting connected to people personally and professionally. I don't think of it as like building a network. I think of it as like you're building a life. Like you spend a lot of time working and you get to work with great people along the way. And I love that. Robert doesn't like people as much as I do. And I don't like technology as much as Robert likes technology. And so we kind of are this like interesting pair where I love the problem space we're in and what it means for how we're evolving how we use the internet. If I'm perfectly honest, like I'm not an engineer. I don't deeply care about how the technology works. I have a product vision that I want to see unfold, but I need experts to go build it in the right scalable way. I think we're already seeing that in the marketplace of, some of our customers from a Dell and a Lenovo and a Skims, like we're dealing with huge multinational firms that have massive enterprise needs for a small new company, right? We raised over 25 million in funding, but we were immediately able to meet those enterprise needs. API first, SOC 2 type 2, role-based access control, workflows, like that's our DNA. And so we were able to bring that to the team. And then as functional leaders, I want people that hold a really high bar. Like we have a very low tolerance for people drama, for character issues. Like we want to build a great organization where we do right by our customer. We assume the best about our customers, our partners, our competitors. I would hope that you never hear us speak negatively about competitors in the space. We just don't do it. Like when somebody's like, compare this and that, I'm going to be like, I've heard they've done a great job on XYZ and you should probably go dig into both products and compare them. That's going to be a differentiator for us. We're going to try to do the right thing at scale because we're building for the long term, and you got to feel good about what you're doing when you wake up in the morning and not like you're, playing games to try to win on the short term. So there's a ton that goes into how we build teams and the leaders we hire and the caliber of people they're looking for. It's been a really thoughtful component of building this team and something hard to do to scale quickly. I mean, we're over 40 people today. Beginning of the year, I think we were 5. Right. So this has been a very fast growth period for the business from a customer, from a employee, from all the perspectives. And it takes a lot to get those things right. And I'm sure we're not getting it 100%
right. Well, you're doing a pretty good job. I think it's really interesting. A couple of things that you said. One, I couldn't agree more. It's people first, like people first always. If you ever, I've done a lot of exercises with leadership teams, and there's one, what drives what, and you put up all your things that are most important and try to figure out which one drives what. At the end of the day, if you do that exercise right every single time, the people drive everything. Unless we have an organization with no people in it, then probably wouldn't have that. But I don't know any organization like that. And that's a whole nother conversation. But I do believe people drive everything, and you have good people. They build good products. They build good customer success. They build everything, right? And I think that's so important. It's something that we all know, but do we all really emphasize that and drive that? And I think the good leaders do. They find ways to strengthen that, build that. Obviously, that's the space that I play in, like is trying to create this team alignment, focus, and momentum in the tools that we use. But I think that is so interesting. The other thing that I think is really interesting about you guys, and I want to call out, is that you have worked in large organizations and you're serving large organizations, organizations of all sizes, but you can serve these really large organizations. And oftentimes early stage companies will bring early stage talent that's used to working in early stage companies. And sometimes they miss the ball trying to work their way up market or even start at that higher level of the market. And I think you do need that intellect, but you also need people willing to be in an early stage growth company, playing multiple roles, doing a lot of different things. And so the way that you explained your co-founder that could run a 100-person, engineering team, but also get in there and build the product, that's really, I think, unique. And I think that's kind of a dilemma that I find with a lot of teams is trying to find the leader doers in the early stage. Sometimes they just find the doers, but not leaders. And that can be okay for a while. Or they just find the leaders and they're used to working in these really large organizations. But when it comes to like being in a smaller, nimble, we have to wear many hats and figure things out because we haven't figured out things that we need to figure out. Sometimes it fails. So going back to the people, this is a question now, like, what are you doing to like kind of thread the needle on that? Because I think that can oftentimes be a challenge.
You interview for it, you reference check for it, right? You make sure they're willing to do the work in the interview cycle. Like, I mean, salespeople are some of the best people at interviewing. Will they write a prospect email with you in the interview and maybe send it? I mean, I've gone so far as like making cold calls in interviews with candidates, being like, hey, let's do a cold call together. Like, will you do it with me? Like, what
Right.
should the script be? Let's test this process together. And if they're like, whoa, like I'm not ready, like one that might show some good judgment. They're probably not ready. They're in an interview. Okay, let's work
Right.
through what we need to do to get ready. If you're hiring an executive assistant, can they show you the work? Like, were they part of a huge system, or can they play the role of HR, people ops, sales, recruiting, because they're in a 40-person company that's going to double in the next few months, and they're going to be asked to do a million things. So we just hired a world-class, executive assistant, Kaylee, who's been, we put her through the ringer in terms of the interview process to make sure she can help us in a bunch of areas, and she's 10x our expectations, right? So in every area of the business, you're testing to make sure they're willing to do the work, not say they're willing to do the work. And
Right.
try to have a moment at the end of the interview where I'm just like, look, this is how hard the first few months are going to be. Like, you're going to need to build systems for yourself. You're going to need to figure out answers for yourself. And we have a zero tolerance policy on things like this. Like, if these are problems for you, you don't want to come here. You're just like,
Yeah.
it's not going to be a good fit. And just be really, really raw. You don't want to oversell people. You hear these stories all the time of people walking into businesses and being like, this isn't what I thought it was. We've massively wasted our time, your time, and the company's time, if that's the case. So
Yeah.
finding leader doers is enormous. Like, I hired a head of marketing, Kevin White, and I'm being careful with him, being like, I don't think I want you to come in and build a 10-person marketing organization. I want you to kind of wrap your head around all of it. Now, the reality was, a month into his tenure, I'm like, please go hire all the people because like it's just growing in a way where we need those leaders.
Mm-hmm.
In the month, he had played 5 different roles with low ego, high EQ, high output, writing his own content, demoing the product, opening up sales cycles, scaling things. And I think in the last 3 months, the last month, he's hired 5 people. That's how dynamic it is. Like, I don't know what we're going to do a month from now, but I might need you to be a player coach by yourself, or I'm going to need you to run a team of 20. And so many of the leaders for our team have significant experience scaling organizations, but can roll up their sleeves and set the best practice. I think that's a critical capability set at an early stage startup. You hire for the wrong profile and they're gone in 6 months.
Right.
You've burned a lot of cycles, and maybe you've burned a massive recruiter fee along the way in a high growth environment. So doing our best to be thoughtful on the hiring side, and thankful to have a really, really strong team at this juncture.
Hiring wrong is so costly in time and capital, unalignment, disalignment, I probably should say. One of the things that really comes out, and when I talked with you in the past and in this conversation too, I always talk about there's 5 core behaviors of scaling an organization, and 5 core behaviors of all high performing teams. I wrote about my book, Peak Teams. But number 4 is learning. And in another time and world when I was helping teams hire a lot of people before, it's people and process, right? The one piece, learning, I think, is so important in these organizations because we don't know everything. We're doing something that's never been done before. And so if you don't hire people that are really eager and hungry to learn, that's not the right people. The people that are not willing to learn are not willing to change. And we're going to be working in an environment that's going to be constantly changing. We have to be constantly learning to figure out what we're doing. It's always like, it's a science experiment every single day from day one of a early stage company. And then when you stop learning, those are companies that, go flat, right? So I think trying to find, and one of the interview questions that we asked a lot is, tell me what you're interested in outside of work, and what are you doing, and what are you learning about? And all learners, eager learners, are learning other things. Like maybe they're learning how to do jujitsu, or they're studying something very specific around science or something like that. But learners are learners, and they're willing to change and adapt. And people that are not, I think it's really hard for those people that work in those environments of change.
Yep. No, I mean, I remember an early interview question someone taught me is just like, teach me something. Start the interview with teach me something. And some people are very comfortable in that mode, being like, great, I got a million things I can teach you. Like, and they just jump in. Others are like, what have I learned lately? And that's like a pretty good signal. Like, they may be great for a certain phase of a company to like repeat a process and help you execute at a certain level. I think to wrap maybe on the people side, we really try to hire for like empathy, authenticity, and enthusiasm. And those are going to show up differently for different people. And I think
Yeah.
we organically arrived at values. I think sometimes companies create a value and then 6 months in, they're like trying to justify said value and it doesn't fit. We kind of arrived at those values as a team of like, from an enthusiasm perspective, we're in a unbelievably dynamic space that's really fun. We need to be enthusiastic about it. Enthusiasm doesn't mean you're like faking your excitement, but you're enthusiastic for your customer's problem. You actually are curious about what they are trying to solve for as a company and as a person. And that's going to show up differently. Authenticity means like, I expect my team to take a stand. I expect them, if they disagree with me, they state it. If they disagree with a customer, they state it. We're trying to make things better, like show up authentically. What are you interested in? Don't pretend to be interested about something. It's always going to be seen through. And the empathy side is like, this stuff's really hard. Like life is hard at points. Like show up with an appreciation that, another dear friend of mine, TJ Parker, who started PillPack, guy I grew up with, one of their values was assume the best. And under our kind of empathy bucket, that's kind of a sub bullet. It's like assume the best about your teammates, your peers, your partners, your customers, your competitors. People are trying to do their best. If you take that as a starting point, you're going to feel better about how you're approaching the business and the opportunity. Right after that, show up with authenticity. Like be independent, be honest. Like if you disagree or someone's doing the wrong thing, speak up. And I think we found that by communicating those things now that they're very evident and core to our business, it's really helping us as we zone in on the right people to hire.
I love those. Those are really good. It kind of goes back to your talk on, and I'm this way too. I don't know if it's my background or growing up, but I never talking bad about other, competitors. And maybe I'm very optimistic. I think there's space for everybody to build something that's valuable. There's all these different spaces. And I think if you're really listening to your customer or really know your ICP, you can really figure out what you can solve for them. And maybe you start solving something different than your competitor does, or maybe your competitor goes up market or down market. I just think that there's room for everyone. And then sometimes it's good to have competition, right? Like I think sometimes there's good to have competition too. And we don't all have to have every single person in the marketplace as our clients, right? And I love taking on new clients because I love like empowering them and their team, and that gets me excited. And I just think that having that empathy and that understanding, and I think it goes a long ways. I think it really matters. And some teams will, like you said, create values and try to live to those values, and other teams can like really find their real values. And I think that's a big difference.
Yeah, agreed. And I don't know that I don't know which one's more right than the other. Like if you've got core values, you may be able to start them from day one and execute against them. Like we were navigating and like these feel very authentic to us. And I think we're showing up well against them. It won't always be perfect, but ultimately you want to feel good about the work you're doing and the team you're building and the people you're doing it with. And so here we are doing our best. It's been a lot of fun.
Core values are really interesting, I think. And we've been really exploring core behaviors. So you have core values. I kind of think that it might be okay that people have different values, and diversity of values might be good. The interesting thing is if you think about behaviors, that's pretty clear, like how you want people to behave, and and you can really like empower behaviors. I think in organizations, that's something that some of our teams will elect behaviors over values, and I think that's kind of an interesting route to go down. Switching gears, I'm curious, kind of tracking back from your time at Hearsay, and what was the journey from, I think I have an idea for a company, to actually saying, that day that you're like, you know what, let's do this. Like, what did that look like for you?
Large opportunities emerge around massive behavior change, right? And I think looking back at Hearsay, that was started in the social media wave, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, all emerging, companies trying to figure out how to participate. Everybody's behavior was changing at a certain level. There was an opportunity to build, right? We kind of iterated on things, found our path. There's a lot to look back on in terms of the products we built, the decisions we made on where we could have done a better job, where we nailed it. Like the benefit of this being a second startup is you get a chance to kind of reflect on those things. And hire a lot of the great people that you've worked with in the past. With Scrunch, I think it was and understanding that this is an even bigger shift than social. This is like everything about how the world is working is changing because of AI. And everyone's trying to figure out what that means. And every brand in the world is looking for a partner to understand how they retain some control of the customer journey and connection to their customer. And it impacted me first as a consumer, where I was like, I'm not really going to google.com as much. Like, I'm starting my day in ChatGPT. Wait a second, I'm not visiting websites anymore. Who are websites for? Who are we writing content for? Just, there was a couple light bulb moments. I was on the phone with a C-level executive at a very large insurance company here in the US, and they had described almost their entire behavior had moved over to Perplexity. They loved it, but they hadn't even thought about how it applied to their business. And we were on the phone searching via Google for like a product they offer, and then doing the same search on Gemini, Perplexity, GPT, and getting different results. And they're like, wait a second, these things work differently. Like, this is going to change how we market and sell. And I was like, okay, there's something here. So there's a number of light bulb moments. I think building companies around shifts in human behavior allow you to build against really large opportunities. And this shift is one that is sustained. We're seeing humans habituate to AI search. I think we're over 60% of search results in North America are powered by a large language model, right? You're getting an AI overview answer from Google. You're getting a GPT Perplexity response. Huge behavior shift. And it makes sense to align with that and then be the platform to support people in it more completely. I think we've been a little bit slower in some of our launches, a little bit slower in some of our announcements, because there's foundational enterprise capabilities to get right, to make sure this scales for every language, for different personas, for all the different models we need to support, not just search monitoring, but insights and content optimization and content delivery. So there's a complete platform vision here that is unfolding that's, taking time to get right in a very fast moving space.
It's easy to release some product and try to go to market with it, but knowing that it sounds like you're saying, hey, we could probably go to market with this, but like, I really think we need to build this full capability out before we go. Like, how do you make that decision, and how do you stay patient in the process?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things there. I mean, one, ChatGPT is promising a lot about what the future looks like, but it's not all here yet, right? Like, we can't buy all the products and services we want in ChatGPT today. They're testing a small percent. For the most part, there are no ads in these ecosystems. That part hasn't even emerged. So in terms of what we're building, there's like foundational things we can get right that are critical today, built in a way that scale for a future where content and outcomes are going to look completely different on the internet. I think we're going to move towards largely a non-visual internet, content repositories that AI agents are accessing and retrieving based on personalized intent. I think the outcomes will be integrated into LLM windows, but also dedicated experiences still on the web or via mobile outcomes that humans want. We can see where the world is kind of going, and we can build the building blocks to accelerate our ability to deliver against those, but they're not all here yet. So that gives us a little bit of patience because of the ecosystem. Personal patience is definitely a challenge. Like, I wish we'd hired faster, but I think you got to hire for quality. You got to do the right thing for the people on your team and not get too far ahead of yourself. But do I wish we could build more faster? For sure. Do I wish we had, teams that were completely up and running 2 years ago? Of course. But like, deal with the reality of where you are, build with a long-term mindset, and try to find partners that are signing up for the long haul with you.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's a faster race today than it was yesterday?
100%. Yeah. Couldn't articulate that more.
Why is that?
I think it's a pace of change in that we as consumers see our behavior changing faster than it's ever changed. And so we're all the marketers are like, I need to revamp my mental model on the customer journey faster than ever. So I'm seeing, we've probably signed up 10 Fortune 100 firms in the last 3 months where contract cycles were 2 to 4 months instead of 6 to 24 months. These are highly regulated banks, top retailers in the world. I'm talking the largest companies in the world are signing enterprise annual contracts with us because, and a lot of them, we don't have the permission to say their name. So I'm being a little bit coy, but these are the largest companies in the world with global scale. And they are making decisions and moving faster than I've ever seen them move because they can see it in their metrics. They can see that maybe their traffic patterns are changing. Maybe referral traffic from AI converts at a far higher level. Could we attract more of that traffic? They're pushing faster. It's very different. The incumbents now move faster, right? Like in 2008, you could be like, oh, this enterprise software company won't build it for a year. They're all trying to build it really fast now. And so everything's moving more quickly. And kudos to competitors in the space. Like they're moving quickly. Like we've had competitors hire faster, spend faster, expand faster. Everybody's got to find their own path for like what they think is sustainable and what the building blocks are to get this right. But everything is moving faster than it has historically. Maybe it's because you can use AI to move faster too. I mean, half the code's getting written with AI, right?
Yeah.
And half the marketing content is being adapted with AI. People are finding ways to leverage these tools authentically, but accelerate the business.
And then at the end of the day, it really comes down, the human's role in this is decision making, like how we gather our information.
Yep,
is gonna be changing rapidly. It has been changing rapidly, but I think it forces us to make decisions faster.
Yeah,
and I think in a world where it's moving faster, we have to make decisions faster. Have you guys found ways to increase the speed of your decision making?
I think hire for judgment. Like I can't make every decision. Like ultimately we're hiring for judgment. Like, do I believe this person has the right taste, the right character, the right long-term lens to make the smallest of calls and the biggest of calls day to day? The worst feelings as a founder and CEO are when I don't quite know the right decision to make. And you're like, if you paralyze yourself there, you paralyze the whole company. You got to have some like leading indicators of what you're building and executing against, a framework to make decisions quickly and be able to reflect on where you get it wrong. And that's what I expect of the team as well.
Yeah. I see that in developing OKRs with teams. A lot of times, they're trying to make decisions and they feel like they should always be able to make all decisions. And part of your work and part of maybe your objectives and your key results is going to get information so we can make these decisions, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes they get paralyzed, and it's like if you're going up a hill and you didn't know which way to go, you'd send one person one way, another person another way, and come back, take that information, and decide to go left or right. And I think teams do get paralyzed and stuck. But the world is moving faster, and I think we're going to be having to make decisions faster. It's definitely a unique time. To build a company. I have two questions left for you. One, what do you think commerce looks like in the next 5 years? Let's start with that one. I'll close with the last one.
Yeah, I think it's going to fragment. I think what we'll see with commerce in the next 5 years is Amazon's not going away. Google's ad ecosystem is not going away, but we're going to see people's attention shift into some of these chat-based experience for checkout. It's why Walmart has made an announcement. It's why Shopify and Etsy are making announcements. But I think consumers still want to be involved in the purchase process. I think it's always ironic that when we talk about, AI, we're like, we're going to have AI for executive assistants. We're going to have AI booking travel and buying shoes for me. Turns out we want humans involved there. The first thing AI did, it was like content creation, which was human. Coding, which was human. The things that we thought AI was going to outsource or take control of are still things we want humans involved in. We like to shop. Like I want to go be involved in the purchase. I don't want random shoes showing up at my house. So I think commerce fragments, but we start to see more dedicated experiences geared towards a checkout, either on an owned website that's like just further down the funnel or in a chat experience. But I think and expect a lot of change.
So that goes back to humans still want to make decisions.
Yeah,
thank you.
Literally.
But where they may make the decisions in this case may change.
Correct.
That's really interesting. All right. I could talk to you all afternoon. This is so fun to have this conversation. The last question, it's more of a scenario. And the scenario is you're trapped on a desert island the rest of your life. You have plenty of food, water, everything that you need, healthcare, everything that you need. But the one thing you don't have is entertainment. And luckily for you, an old 80s boombox drifts ashore with unlimited batteries. And Chris, you have only one option to make, and that is you can only choose one album to listen to the rest of your life. What are you going to choose?
That's a tough one. This is not a question you get to prepare for. What I'm going to choose is I'm going to semi-sidestep the question with a playlist instead of an album, which is I went and saw the play Hamlet in London years ago, but it was a Bob Dylan rendition of Hamlet. Whoa. And so there was a playlist called like the Bob Dylan Hamlet playlist, which is like 7 tracks. and it's kind of been like my morning
Are they Bob
soundtrack
Dylan
for the last.
songs?
They're all Bob Dylan songs. Yeah, so they're Bob Dylan songs. If you go on Spotify and search Hamlet Bob Dylan, you'll find the playlist. It's like a London, like West End, London production, and it's like 7 or 8 Spirit on the Water, just a collection of like 7 or 8 of his, in my opinion, his best songs. I think Dylan is a perfect encapsulation of a couple generations in songwriting and music ability. And so I start a lot of my days and finish a lot of my days with that playlist. So I stick with that on the desert island.
That is awesome for many reasons. One, I'm originally from Minneapolis, where Bob Dylan's from. Two, I love Dylan.
You got Prince, you got Bob Dylan, you got Craig Finn,
yeah,
Hold Steady. There's a lot of great musicians coming out of
First Ave, well-known area. Second, yeah, I love Dylan. No one's ever even brought this up to me before. I didn't know this existed. Are you familiar with the New Basement tapes?
I am. Yeah.
And that they took those lyrics and made songs. That was a really cool documentary.
Yep.
Cool. I'm going to go check this out immediately after we're done with this episode.
We'll send you the link. This was fun.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for your time. Appreciate it. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thanks, Jeff.